A new kind of checkbook may be coming to Ukraine's war effort, and it's filled with Russia's own money. Brussels is advancing a massive reparations loan, backed by frozen Russian central bank reserves. If it passes, Kyiv won't just be shopping inside Europe. It could place multi-year orders for air defense, long-range strike, artillery, and sensors from suppliers around the world. The Kremlin calls it theft. Investors call it creative. Ukraine would call it time, the kind you buy in bulk when winter missiles start flying. After 2022, hundreds of billions in Russian state reserves parked in European institutions were immobilized. Brussels already schemes the profits that pile up while those assets sit. The new step on the table is bigger. Use those immobilized reserves as backing for an EU-level loan to Ukraine, huge enough to underwrite several years of defense orders and macro support. The legal trick is simple to say and complex to execute. Don't seize the principal. Raise money against it, and let future reparations retire the debt. That framing keeps nervous central bankers on side and gives fiscally tight capitals political cover. Most European initiatives rightly boost EU production, shells, missiles, launchers, lines. But this package carves out a budget support channel that Kyiv can use globally if it strengthens defense and macro stability. In plain English, if a non-EU supplier can deliver Patriots, gap-filler radars, or key drone components faster at a sane price, Ukraine can book it. Now, not after another ministerial meeting. Europe's pot of immobilized assets dwarfs America's. But the proposal is designed to be copied, or at least endorsed, by the broader G7. Even if the US doesn't run a mirror program, aligning at the IMF and blessing multi-year plans gives Ukrainian contracts the credibility prime contractors need before they add shifts. Predictability beats headlines. Munitions lines do not spin up on tweets. Producers hire people, sign subsupplier deals, and tool machines when they see guaranteed demand for years, not months. A large EU-backed loan, with budget support flexibility, lets Ukraine sign the kind of framework agreements that keep interceptors and shells flowing through 2026 to 27. Speed where Europe is thin, reinforcement where Europe is strong. Europe's air defense ecosystem has surged. IRIS-T-SLM, NASAMS partnerships, SAMP-T, but there are still choke points. Ballistic-capable interceptors, certain seekers, propellants, specialized electronics for naval drones. The buy-anywhere carve-out is a pressure valve. It doesn't replace EU sourcing. It removes calendar risk where it hurts most. Winter is a finance problem. The battle to keep Ukraine's grid alive is a logistics and money fight as much as it's a missile fight. Stable cash flows by spare parts, reloads, and repairs on the timetable the enemy is trying to deny you. If Kyiv can guarantee interceptors and maintenance through winter and beyond, Russia's grid strike campaign yields diminishing returns and higher costs. Layer 1. The assets. Immobilized Russian state reserves remain parked in Europe. The principle doesn't move. The profits generated while those assets sit are already being captured. The legal architecture recognizes that reparations claims exist and uses that expectation to justify raising money today. Layer 2. The EU-level loan. Brussels issues a large loan to Ukraine that member states politically guarantee, with safeguards to keep those guarantees from counting against strict national deficit rules. The intention is that the loan is eventually retired by Russia's reparations, not by European taxpayers. That matters for Rome, Berlin, and any capital juggling debt breaks with defense realities. Layer 3. The spending channels. One channel is industrial. Rebuild Ukrainian defense production and buy European to cement interoperability and scale. The other is budget support. Flexible funds Kyiv can deploy globally to fill near-term gaps, co-finance IMF programs, and keep the civil state functioning, salaries, pensions, energy repairs, so the defense line doesn't cannibalize the home front. There's also a quiet but essential governance piece that turns good intentions into dependable deliveries. Expect any reparations-backed facility to hardwire transparency, escrowed tranches, milestone-based disbursements, independent audits, and standardized procurement playbooks that force apples-to-apples bids across suppliers. Contracts should include open book pricing on long lead components, liquidated damages for missed delivery windows, and option clauses that let Kyiv surge quantities if the threat picture shifts mid-year. On the Ukrainian side, a single program office that tracks KPIs, interceptor availability, mean time to repair, shell output per month, will keep ministries, donors, and vendors aligned on what success actually looks like. Tie a modest share of each award to local industrial offsets and workforce training, and the budget support that buys speed in 2025 also seeds onshored capacity for 2026 to 27. Anti-corruption safeguards aren't a box tick. They are how you defend the schedule, which is how you defend the grid. If Ukraine can place multi-year orders directly against U.S. production, while Europe keeps scaling IRIS-T, NASAMS components, the combined effect is fewer blackout nights and more Russian planners scattering high-value assets. ATACMS reloads, GLSDB lots, maritime strike payloads, and seeker upgrades don't have to arrive tomorrow to matter. Contracted 2026 slots change Russian basing today. When aircraft disperse, when rail hubs add decoys, when SAM units burn cycles on phantom tracks, that's battlefield effect bought with paperwork and deposits. Russia's glide bombs remain a brutal problem. A flexible purse lets Kyiv mix radars, soft-kill jammers, decoys, and mobile guns from multiple suppliers. The goal is not perfect interception, it's ugly attrition, force higher release altitudes, worse accuracy, and higher loss rates for launch platforms. Ukraine's naval drones flipped the Black Sea script, but payloads and eyes win the last mile. Global sourcing of EO or IR turrets, data links, and seekers, integrated into existing Ukrainian designs, shortens the time between clever idea and repeatable effect. Europe is scaling, but artillery appetite is relentless. Budget support money can license additional lines with non-EU partners, bridge deliveries, and then onshore chunks inside Ukraine as factories come online. The right sequence prevents shell cliffs that force commanders to ration fire in critical weeks. Tethered aerostats, gap filler radars, SIGINT kits, and counter-UAV nets are not glamorous, but they upgrade the entire kill chain. A modest tranche here may save a far more expensive tranche in missiles later. Lawyers prefer verbs like leverage, not seize. The difference isn't semantic. Keeping the principle frozen while raising money against it reduces precedent risk and gives courts an off-ramp. This is not expropriation. It's a bridge loan to a victim state, retired when the aggressor pays. That's why the language is careful. The Kremlin will retaliate, on paper and with counter-sanctions. Moscow has already threatened lawsuits and mirror measures against Western holdings in Russia. Expect legal trench warfare in European courts and political pressure campaigns. Brussels is betting that tight legal drafting and allied unity outweigh the noise. Industrial politics won't vanish. Paris and others will insist on Europe-first purchases. The compromise is common sense. Buy European when timelines and price are competitive. Buy global when survival says you must. The more Europe scales, the less often that trade-off even appears. Every EU package now carries the question, can one capital block it? The architects are pursuing structures that minimize single capital vetoes and tuck guarantees outside deficit tallies. It isn't bulletproof, but it's harder to hold the entire edifice hostage. Investor fairness questions won't go away. When Belgium's clearinghouse compensated Western investors after Russia seized their assets, Kyiv cried foul, arguing Ukraine should come first. This loan is partly a political reset. Put Ukraine's survival and reconstruction at the front of the line and keep the framework coherent, not ad hoc. Even a strong structure invites litigation. The hedge is tranching. Release funds on schedules that aren't easily frozen by a single filing, and building redundancy with G7 endorsements. Markets like clarity, the package must publish it. Guarantee-heavy architecture scares some finance ministries. Carving those guarantees out of deficit rules, plus the explicit expectation of reparations, reduces the headline pressure that feeds domestic opposition. Money helps, but supply chains still miss deadlines. The answer is boring and powerful: multi-supplier hedging, option clauses for surge capacity, and early deposits for long lead items. You won't beat physics, you can beat confusion. Counter-sanctions and legal noise are coming no matter what. The strategic point is to demonstrate financial stamina. Aggression raises your costs for years, not months. That message deters better than any communique. Air defense stamina through winter into 2026. Instead of feast or famine reload cycles, commanders plan to a calendar. Missiles don't get cheaper, but blackouts get rarer, repair crews get safer, and factories keep machines warm. Deeper, steadier strike planning. Long-range contracts let Ukraine pre-bake a tempo, maritime, ground, and air-launched options sequenced to stretch Russian air defenses. When planners on the other side have to defend everything, everywhere, always, they start making mistakes. Multi-year funds justify adding propellant and projectile lines. When a front commander doesn't have to hoard shells for fear of a spring gap, he takes opportunities he would otherwise pass. An IMF-anchored macro track shields salaries, pensions, and grid repair from the volatility of battlefield news. Keeping classrooms and clinics open is not charity, it's strategy. Armies fight better when the country behind them functions. It's illegal asset theft. The core design keeps principal frozen and raises money against it. Courts will decide edge cases, but the structure is tailored to survive. It won't deliver fast enough. The global purchase window exists to buy speed where Europe is thin. Meanwhile, EU production keeps scaling. The two tracks complement, they don't compete. It divides the West. The package actively invites G7 alignment and IMF support. The more capitals lock in the macro plan, the fewer veto points remain. Budget rule carve-outs. If guarantees are exempted from national deficit math, the coalition gets broader fast. Watch ECOFIN readouts and ambassador-level language. The outside U clause's final text. If it survives intact, expect early U.S. orders for interceptors and mixed global sourcing for niche components. A staff-level deal and a supportive U.S. readout unlock private sector and defense industry confidence. Contracts get signed when financing is boring and predictable. This isn't Europe discovering free money. It's Europe discovering leverage. Financial leverage that converts a frozen balance sheet into warm production lines and colder Russian calculations. If the package lands, Kyiv buys more than missiles, it buys time. Time for factories to scale, for air defenses to recover between waves, for planners to look 2 winters out instead of 2 weeks. And in a war of learning curves and budgets, time is the most lethal weapon of all. If you want more clear breakdowns of how money becomes missiles and why that matters at the front, hit subscribe, drop a like, and tell me in the comments which capability Ukraine should prioritize first with a buy anywhere checkbook, ballistic interceptors, counter glide bomb kits, or long-range strike options. Your picks help shape the next deep dive.